Best practices. Actually, Vikram and I discussed, and I want to make it career development worst practices. Everybody knows best practices, and there'll be a ton of material that you'll find on the internet associated with best practices. But I want to share with you things that I've personally gone through, and some things I personally regret not having got the advice to look at my portfolio of how I show up in front of my prospective hires. And if I could have done anything differently, that's what I want to share with you. So let's start with what does the word career mean? Literal definition and otherwise. Happy to take any feedback from the folks in the group. What does career actually mean?
Pathway.
Okay, good. Close. Not so close.
So destination where you are satisfied.
One of the attributes, yes.
It's a way of earning or source of income.
One another attribute, yes.
Vision,
Those are derivatives. If you have a good career, you will have a good source of income.
Sir, vision accomplished.
Vision accomplished is okay. All right. Okay, so I won't belabor. So career essentially is a 16th century word denoting a road or a race course. It came from a French word called carrière, which came from an Italian word called carrera, which means a wheeled vehicle. Okay, so that's what to think of a wheeled vehicle in the context of today seems odd. But the actual definition of career is an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life with opportunities for progress. Each of these words matter. So, significant period of time. Otherwise, it's a hobby. So, what have you accomplished over the course of your journey so far as learning in school or college or the work ex that you have? It's a stepping stone to what would be a significant period of time spent with opportunities for growth. Now, that's a noun. The dictionary also gives a definition of career as a verb, which is to move swiftly in an uncontrolled way. I don't believe you would want your career to be that. So, what I'm going to share with you is some avenues where I ended up being probably a little self-centered, short-sighted about where I need my career to be. Okay, so let's start with first of the 7 worst practices. The first one I want to talk about is the only way to advance in your career is up. Do I be an individual contributor, become a manager, manager of managers, CEO, and so on? And I do want to put a caveat that the context of what I will share is about service and not about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship will have its own set of parameters. I could talk about that later, but the context that I'm providing is about being a service. So the only way is up, and that's something which is a recipe for disaster. I've been in Microsoft for 24 years, and for the first 8 to 10 years, my belief was I need to get to the next position where I have a larger team, I manage a set of resources, I expand my portfolio, I get more P&L responsibility, and that was it. And it was in that period that I got some sound advice after a rap on the knuckles that the only way is not necessarily up. So my career journey, as I would describe, has been across various roles. So just to get you the context, I was a consultant in a company called Sonata Software before I joined Microsoft in 2000. I did pre-sales, I did pre-sales manager, I did product marketing, I was the chief of staff to the area vice president. I moved into product marketing, technical sales, the partnerships, and so on. Now, there are 2 things that I did very differently, having got this advice, is that there are times where you need to step away from being a manager and shift your domain to be an individual contributor. If you need to shift your domain, you should be open to becoming an individual contributor. Now that may not seem very intuitive. Why would you do that? Half the time I would be worried as to what my family would say. You know, they all seniors, at least in my household or otherwise, would say, you know, you've got this, when are you going to become a manager? When are you going to become even a bigger manager, and so on. So when I chose to take the path to an IC, I did get some very, very pertinent feedback. See, that's not how people rise. And that's also the mindset of the past that I would want you to be careful of and not stepping into that minefield of saying that I will only rise up and that's the way to go. So twice in my career journey, I've chosen to go down the path of becoming a manager and then switching back to an IC. In fact, last year I moved away from a manager to an IC because of the way and the opportunity that role gave to me in terms of experiences, in terms of the networks that I built, and so on. So that's the first thing that I would want to advise you. Do not think of up as the only way. At Microsoft, we talk about the fact that there is no single right path for choosing your career. So you could develop as growing in place, moving upwards, moving across, reconciling work if the job requirements change, increase your proficiency, even your career development, maybe you move out of Microsoft because you hit a ceiling, you may not be getting jobs that you want, or you like to switch your career to do entrepreneurship and so on. So that's an important part of thinking through what is the right path for you. And the fact that you need to be open to be able to take that path without having the fear of other people telling you that the only way is up. Let's get to number 2. You only need to skill up for the job that you've been tasked to do. And for us, that is essentially a career limiting move. In the past, the way I would choose my job was if I knew coding or if I knew IT implementation, that was good enough, and I did that for 1 year. For a decent amount of time, that got me the success that I needed because the company was in a trajectory where they were getting to see new projects, new opportunities, and it was growing rapidly. As downturns happen, as scenarios change where restructuring happened within the organizations, these skills were insufficient for me to get a job. So you do need to look at, are you planning for the job after and therefore skilling yourself or not? And I want to give you a quote that Satya talks about in the context of AI. He says the cord between a university degree and a human agency or the ability for you to deliver the job is practically cut because of AI. You may feel that, again, and I'm not trying to scare you, but you should know that you may feel that after an MBA, you will get a job that somebody else who's not done an MBA, they can't do. That is not necessarily true. Because if I need to create a project report or if I need to build a strategy paper, AI can help me do that in probably a faster way than what it would take for you to build. And so never feel complacent about what work you can do. One of the things that our customers are doing is they're not looking at people with a higher number of years of experience because they can provide AI to someone with lesser number of years of experience. Obviously, that individual needs to know the stuff that needs to get done. But the fact that you are now going to be entering a world after you complete your MBA, where you will be challenged by people who have not done, and you will be challenged by people who have higher experience, but the organizations cannot afford them. So how do you skill yourself up, irrespective of the branch that you take, or specialization that you take? Your ability to stand out in the market will depend upon how well you know AI or what is your AI fluency. It's not about writing code, but it's about your understanding of what AI can do to help you to be successful. So whether you use ChatGPT or Bing Copilot or Gemini, whatever, just make sure you have an understanding of what will it take for you to use those as tools to your advantage. Now, I'm not sure what the management here would say that your research papers or answers should be ChatGPT written. I don't believe that's what we're getting to. But you should know when to use it and to what advantage. So that's one part that I would say. So don't skill up for the job that you're just doing. Topic number 3. I will lead when I have experience. How many of you believe you're leaders today? Or do you know what does it take to be a leader? So when you join the organization for the first time, you say, oh, the people who are at the top of the organization, they are leaders, we are not. And you would continue to have that belief for a decent amount of time because it'll take you years to get to the top and you'll never believe you're a leader. And this was a realization that happened to me when I was tasked to run a big product launch within Microsoft. And I was an individual contributor. And my boss was frustrated because I wasn't able to take decisions, there was so much ambiguity, I didn't know how to use the budget, and so on. And at that point of time, he essentially explained that someone reporting to you, and you as a manager, there's a reporting hierarchy. But in leadership, there is no reporting hierarchy. And so he helped me understand the 3 principles that Microsoft has for what defines leadership. Even in your current job or in your current role in this institute, you can be a leader as long as you follow these 3 principles. First is to create clarity. Irrespective of the problem statement, prioritize how can you create clarity so that you know what to do and what not. Second is how do you motivate people, and that's where you generate energy. And the last one is, now that you've decided what the goals are you able to deliver? These principles will help you get your first job. These principles will help you stand out within the institute as someone who is considered a leader, not because you want to be a member of the student council or the elections within the campus, but your ability to show and practice what leadership means is super, super critical. So I'd encourage you, please note these down, irrespective of what role or job that you aspire to get to. These are universal and apply to everyone. So that was number 3. Number 4 is my team is my network. When you work in large organizations, they often end up in defining the boundaries of where your job starts and where your job ends. It would be, if you're in customer service, they'll say, okay, this is the remit, these are the tasks that you have to follow, and so on. So you need help, go talk to this team. It is a career limiting move to stay bounded by what your manager defines as your network. I'm sure you have a LinkedIn profile. How many of you use your LinkedIn profile to find people you can network with, not just to build your connections? Go find people who will be willing to give you guidance, advice, projects, stretch responsibility, bring you into communities that are discussing topics that matter. Those are the ones that will help you build it. And the same applies to the work that you do when you join the organization. Not knowing who can help you will not get you to find the next job. So your network becomes super critical because you don't know when you will need the next person. Number 5, my boss should take care of my career. Very evident, seems logical. After all, he or she has hired you. He should be worried about what you need to do in your life. He should be worried about whether you're growing in the organization or not. And the answer is flat out no. Your boss will, depending upon who he or she is, will be as dispassionate about your career because he or she will be worried about his or her own career. He will support you, but you do need to therefore find other avenues to maintain, secure, and grow your career. Which is where the extension of the point that I just made around the network becomes imperative. There is a difference between a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. A coach is focused on is about growth, but it focuses with the coaches. Coach supports the coachee through constructive interaction. A coach will never give you an answer. The coach will continue to ask you questions about what's the challenge, what have you done, where do you want to be, how do you want to solve the problem. He or she will never give, but they will steer the conversation in the right direction. And there are multiple types of coaches. You had sports coaches, you have life coaches, you have business coaches, and so there are multiple coaches that are there. So if you look up LinkedIn properly, you will find some of these people and then you can understand what to do. Like that, there is someone who's a mentor. The mentor will help you unblock a problem by his or her experiences on how they've solved the problem. Ideally, you should be looking for mentors at this stage of your career or this stage of your life who can help you find the next job, who can help you understand the experiences that you need to acquire. So that's an important. And the last one is the sponsor. They are the people who are your godfathers or godmothers. Do you have someone? When you get to your internship, that will be an ideal space. If you want a job in that organization, do you need to find a godfather? But it's not an either or. You need all three. And you need multiples of these. So I'd encourage you to think about what these are. As you build your network, don't worry about your boss only, because there are other people who will need to. The sixth and the second last is, I am flexible, or am I? So I've done my 24 years in Microsoft based out of Kolkata. I have not moved cities. I have not moved countries. I've been here. Why? Because I have made certain hard choices about my ability to move to different cities or not, basis my commitments to the family. But I'm not, I don't feel bad about it because it's a hard choice. So to the question of whether I'm flexible or not, it's important for each of you to make that choice in your mind. Now, those choices may change as you grow in your career. You get married, you move to a different city, your parents are in the armed forces, they get transferred and so on. So various scenarios might be there, but you do need to find your heart constraint. Something that it took me a bit of time to reconcile. I'd always be apologetic about the fact that I can't move city. And I realized that is really not the case. So please define what are your hard constraints and what are your soft constraints. The second thing in flexibility that you will define is what career choices will you make. If you are in technical, will you continue in technical? Will you make the effort to learn more or not? That's an integral part of defining your flexibility. The last topic that is super important is about flexibility and balance. All the years that I've been at Microsoft, I'd always say, work comes first and family does. And the facade that we end up creating, that work is what's most important, is detrimental to how we look at our families and the sacrifices they make. The opportunities for you to determine how will you spend your life or what gives you joy and meaning at work are critical in determining which company you join. If the company's values don't align with what you need to get done, you will always struggle. Thankfully, Microsoft allows me the opportunity to volunteer, to donate time, to donate money, to do stuff that is meaningful, to make an impact with society. That's really what is significant effort for me to put in to complement the opportunities that they provide. So how do you make it real? I talked about 7 things. The way I prescribe is that when you think about your own career choices, if you follow these 4 steps in your mind, whenever you are at a juncture where you need to shift or you need to decide whether this is the right thing to do, please just follow these. This has worked for me. Several instances of what's helped me get to where I am. It's important that you determine who, the career goal, where you want to be, how should you plan your career, and when should you make the move. It's important for you to be selfish. It's very easy for me to say that, but I will encourage you to be selfish. It's your career. You're the one who's going to be worried about it. Nobody else. Your spouse, your family, they will be support. But you decide your career because it's important for you to be happy with the work that you do. And times change, people change, and goals change. It's not etched in stone. I see no reason why you can't make a difference in the way you show up in front of customers, partners, your employers, and even your own family. And so the last slide that I'll leave you with is, as you step into the world of MBA, step out of it, what's the legacy that you will leave there? If you just think about that, that will propel you to where you need to be in the future. With that, I'll pause, open it up to questions. I know career would have been a question that you have got to when you got to your placement time. I'm sure that will happen soon. But it'll be great if you could start much sooner so that you know where, at least you know where you need to be. I'll now open up to any thoughts, comments. Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't choose between the two. The amount of attitude and aptitude required for each role or each type of job that you're doing will vary. But you can't do one without the other. The aptitude will help you sustain. The attitude will determine whether you will feel happy. You'll be happy in the work that you're driving. Others will see you as someone that they can depend upon. So both are required, possibly in equal quantity. Okay, good question. Yeah.
So like MBA in current situation, it's become difficult, sometimes challenging. So how we can strengthen to build the perseverance and move steadily ahead?
Okay. Are you looking at MBA for the perspectives of finding your next job? Is that the idea, or is it just the course?
For finding the job.
Okay. Look, being employable is a function of multiple parameters. Some of them that I called out. To get your job and to be able to have an advantage over others depends upon a couple of things. First, attitude, aptitude is there. But what is your preference of the companies that you'd like to join? Second is, how well are you preparing for that? Which means your goal should be to get to the first pre-placement offer if you want to get to that company. And that pre-placement offers will come if you have a sponsor, if you have a godfather, if you have the right skills to be able to do this, and if you show up as a collaborative person. I used to be a part of our college hiring team at Microsoft. And there are multiple attributes that I would look at. First is, are you demonstrating what is called as a growth mindset? Are you challenging yourself? Do you believe you walk into the office and think, I know everything? Or am I willing to learn? Are you able to show your ability to be entrepreneurial? So if you have a problem statement, how do you show up as solving the problem? And lastly is, do you follow the principles of leadership that are described? So if you're able to establish that, you have a better chance of being selected than anybody else who would come in and just do the task. We are not looking at people who do the tasks. We're looking at people who stand out and can be leaders. So over the course of the 2 years that you have, look at every avenue to build that muscle. It could be through books by eminent personalities. It could be videos on YouTube about how leadership skills can be built. It could be about the industry that you want to go after. Once you have that, I see no reason why you can't stand out. And there is no method that says that a person from, let's say, an IIM will be better suited for a job. We've seen instances of both. Some instances they are, and some instances they are not. And we've got people from the next tier or below actually showing up much stronger.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, I see hands going up now. So let's go to the back.
Are you friends to topics like mentoring and sponsorship?
Mentoring and sponsoring. Yes.
Yes, and sir, like mentoring is like a long-term guidance, and sponsoring is like advocacy maybe. So how these both terms are different, and how we can like try to judge like a mentor or at the time we are working or a sponsorship.
Okay. So first things first, mentoring can be short term or long term. You have to determine how, like I said, you've got to be selfish. So if there's a person with a certain number of years of experience across an industry or a technology or both, you have to understand how long can this individual help you build your skills and muscle, and that's the period you need the mentorship for. Mentorship can also be short, which is I have to join this industry, which is in the pharmaceuticals business, company in the pharmaceutical business. I need to spend a couple of months with you just to understand what their business is so that I can stand out. You pick up somebody who has the skills, is willing to give you time, and that should be. So it could be small. Sponsor typically has to be either someone within the organization or someone who influences the organization for you to be recommended by this individual as an eligible candidate for the job or the task that needs to get done. Sponsor could also be someone who invests in building incremental skills over and above your MBA. Like you want to do an extended course from Harvard outside of what you're doing at NorthCap. Is somebody funding it or sponsoring? So you'll find sponsors that are industries where they take people for certain kind of skills. An example of a sponsor in a non-service job or an entrepreneurial job is a VC who will support you in your startup project that you might want to be building. So sponsor is someone who will get you the job that you want. A mentor is someone who will help you with the skills and the experience that they have so that you can stand out versus your peers. So they can be of multiple. You change companies, your sponsor changes.
But the mentor will be the same.
I'm sorry?
Mentor?
Again, you have to decide, like I said, be selfish. How long do you need that mentor's experience and advice to help you be successful? If you're switching industries, that mentor may no longer be relevant. So you find any mentor. Okay, so there were other hands. Yeah.
Sir, what are the key skills that usually recruiters are looking for in a good candidate?
If the key skills first is a standout CV. If you're not able to present yourself or project yourself, don't expect that there's a chance. Which would mean proofreading. I've seen many CVs with spelling mistakes. It does good. A good covering letter. We've seen that actually shape up very well. So as long as you're able to present yourself better without being physically there, because that's what your CV does. You'll also see recruiters look at your LinkedIn profile, even to some extent Twitter. What's the kind of tweets that you're reading? Is there something that they can learn from? So those are when you're not even there. What are the avenues by which they're there? Once you get to a place where a recruiter believes that you have the right CV, is then both soft skills as well as your what's the essence of the learning that you've had in your school, the graduation and postgrad. Those should be bare starting points. If you've got that far, you will be differentiated by the stretch projects that you've done, or work X that you have, or recommendations that are there from a mentor or a sponsor. So a combination of these will help a recruiter at least choose your profile over and above others. Okay, yeah.
Sir, as we are seeing from last year, or so many people are getting unemployed, so employment is not so promising. So what we should add on with our MBA program, so our employment we can get easily employed. Like what should we add on with our courses?
There is no silver bullet. I know that's not the answer that you want to hear, but there is no silver bullet. Some advice that I've given in the past is, do you want to swim with the tide or swim with the flow or against the flow? That's a decision that you'll have to take. Let's say if you want to swim with the flow, you have to find which are the industries where the job opportunities will be the largest. And you can easily get that from reading any of the business journals. You'll be able to find that out. That's the first part. The second is you need to look for opportunities to engage with either leaders in those organizations, build the connections. Once you have the connections, we've seen a higher strike rate than for those who are just applying for open positions. Even in Microsoft, we would look at a combination of internal and external. We'd look at internal to close sooner because that's the easiest thing to do. But we go for external because we want to get fresh blood. We want to get fresh thinking because we don't want to be in our echo chambers. We just hear whatever we say. So how do you show up in those instances as someone who has a unique point of view is critical. So that's where you swim with the flow. Swimming against the flow is a risk that you want to take to become an entrepreneur. And are there opportunities to therefore look at either starting yourself or joining an organization that is in the startup space? Maybe you invest time first and then get your first salary check. Multiple avenues, no easy answer, unfortunately. Yeah.
So, what is the role of discipline in our path to success?
It is what we call as table stakes. There are a couple of other attributes that are table stakes. And we encapsulate that in what we call as Microsoft values: respect, integrity, and accountability. Respect for not just the work that you do, but also the fellow people whom you engage with. Integrity is being truthful, being honest about the work that you do, being sincere. And accountability is once a task has been given to you, or once if you've made a problem statement, how do you own up and learn from it and move forward? So these attributes come. Obviously, discipline is weaved deeply into all of these. We also pay a lot of emphasis on, do you listen versus hear. Listen is to be able to then take whatever you've been told and take feedback and then act on it. So there's multiple acts. It's not just it. Figure out what values work for you. It's how they snap to the organization that you want to work with. Thank you. I hope I've kept it short and this was of value. Again, these are my own learnings. Like I said, you feel free to challenge, build your own narrative, but do find every opportunity to stand out. That's really what will go a long way in your career. Thank you.